Hi everyone, this is episode 2 of Book Club, and today we're going to be discussing Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano. I am very excited about this book because this is probably my favorite read so far in 2025. We're going to discuss plot, characters, emotional impact, writing style, and language notes for those of you who are reading in their second or third language. I'm gonna try to be as spoiler free as possible. However, if I do have any spoilers, I'm gonna let you know and you will be able to skip that part in case if you do not want to ruin it for yourself. If you're new here, my name is Nastya. I'm a software engineer who used to be a linguist, and on this channel we talk about languages, books, self and career growth, so it's really good vibes. Make sure to subscribe and let's move forward. First of all, let me show you the French edition of this book because this is the one that I got and it's absolutely beautiful. I loved it. I like it better than the American one. That is the main reason why I got it in the French edition in the first place. But also I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to get back into reading in French and practice the language a little bit more. This book is really about love, friendship, relationships, specifically between family members, about family dynamics. I've been thinking a lot about these themes in particular lately. I've been thinking about my personal experience, my family, processing some childhood trauma. So I felt really drawn to this book and I just wanted to explore this theme through the eyes of different characters. This book follows multiple POVs, and the first thing that I'm gonna say about it is that I do not like when a book has multiple POVs. Usually it does not work for me personally, but I quite liked it here in this book and I was curious about every single POV, and that is because I could connect to pretty much every character in a way. But more about it later in the video. Let's just start with the premise. The book follows multiple characters and one of them is William. William grew up in a quite emotionally absent and cold household, so he was shunned by his family. Then he grows up and he meets a girl who is the exact opposite of himself. She's ambitious, she's bright, she's full of joy and love, and she's also inseparable with her three sisters. There is a completely different dynamic in her family, and William kind of becomes part of that. And for me, it was interesting to observe how people from completely different backgrounds, from completely different families, even like the opposite families, come together and how they interact. But unfortunately, William's past and his traumas catch up to him. They cause multiple events that create certain rifts in the family. All of our characters, William, Julia, the girl who he meets, and her sisters, they kind of all go into different directions. I gave this book 4.5 stars. That's probably the only read over 4 stars for me in 2025 so far. Let me explain why I liked it and why I gave it such a high rating. Overall, to me, the plot felt like it was flowing. In the moment, there was nothing crazy happening, nothing major, and in the moment it felt a little bit slow. However, every chapter kept me quite intrigued and there was something changes, a little something. The flow of this book made me feel like part of the story, like part of the family even. And I felt like I was living through these characters, like living their story with them through the characters. Maybe this has more to do with with writing. I don't know. Overall, I will say I really like the pacing. This is probably the first time in a while that I really liked every character. There was always something I could relate to some degree, in every character. So the book starts with William's POV. We'll learn a little bit more about his childhood and the dynamic in his family, which is, as I said, quite emotionless, dry, really not very joyful. And then he meets Julia Padavano and her sister. So there are 4 girls: Julia Padavano, Sylvia Padavano, Emmeline, and Cecilia, I'm not sure how to pronounce. I will not go into detail about their characters because I want you to discover them yourself if you do decide to read this book. But all I'm gonna say, they all have different personalities. They are sisters, they have similar physical traits, but they have unique paths and hobbies, interests, passions, and it is very interesting to observe how similar yet different they can be. My favorite character is probably Julia, and I want to talk about her a little bit. I found a lot of similarities between her and myself. That's probably why I liked her. She is ambitious, she is disciplined, and she's like an executioner, you know? She gets things done. She knows how to plan, she knows how to execute, and I really loved it about her. However, her flaw is that sometimes she is too set in her ways. She is too excited maybe or obsessed with her own vision that she ignores the objective reality, people around her, and she sometimes pushes and pushes, and it cost her. Maybe in a section with spoilers, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. William is the exact opposite. He's more reserved and more into himself, inside his head. He is not ambitious, and he lets Julia lead him. Like, she's got a vision for him, for them as a couple. That's how their relationship starts. This section is going to be somewhat spoilerly. I want to talk about William, his character, and his relationship with Julia. So if you don't want to hear it, make sure to use the timestamps to go to the next section. But yeah, so about William, it's not a major spoiler, it's just his character. It's about his character. He does not have self-worth. He's got low confidence in himself, and his flaw is that he doesn't believe he deserves love and deserves to be loved or even chosen. Like in the beginning of this book, we have an episode when he plays basketball by himself somewhere outside, and then he gets invited by like other boys to play with them. And that was like the first moment in his life when he felt seen and noticed, and he was surprised by that. Well, and it makes sense because his parents mostly ignored him. This particular pattern of being surprised when people pay attention to him and actually choose him is there throughout the whole book. And this is what happens with Julia when they kind of start their relationship or even like start just talking. He cannot believe that he is chosen by this girl, this amazing girl. And Julia, she was apparently but she did not realize that. She really did not know him. She did not know that this was a thing for him. They got together, they became an item, and then Julia started kind of pushing her own vision onto him, her vision of him, like what he should do, who should he become. That's how he became a teacher. All of that made me think how important it is to really know yourself and to cultivate self-esteem and love for yourself before you get together with anyone, because this is very misleading when you're not able to express your own wants, values, and feelings. And how it can be really hurtful and harmful. So William doesn't really open up to Julia. Julia doesn't notice this about William. William is actually being depressed, and we'll learn that a little bit later in the book. He is depressed from this constant suppression of his feelings, starting from his childhood and continuing into his adult life. All of this culminates and leads to a very tragic event in Julia and William's life that splits them apart and kind of sets the story and everyone's lives in a completely different direction. I'm not gonna talk about that event in particular, but to me, well, of course, William has a depression. It's not necessarily everyone's case, but anyway, this situation showed me that it is really important to live according to your values and say no when something doesn't work. I've been thinking quite a lot about how do you compromise in a couple, and I think some things should not be, compromise. Like, you cannot have compromises on some things. And it is important to find someone who shares, a similar vision and values with you. And William did not realize that until later, and it is a very sad part of the story to me personally, because I've been there. I have never been diagnosed with a depression or anything like that, but not being able to know what I want and express it out of fear of being, of not being loved or something, not being accepted, is something very familiar to me, unfortunately. Let me know if any of that feels relatable or even makes sense, because I feel like I've been mumbling a little bit. I will say it was hard to put down this book. And I was quite surprised, also because it's in French, so it was somewhat hard to read. I started reading this book before my trip to East Coast. By the way, I have a video about that, my East Coast trip to Boston, Newport, and New York. Check it out if you haven't watched it yet. I started before that trip and I did not take this book with me because I did not want to have to carry a physical copy around. And I regretted that because that was the only thing that I wanted to read. I have my Kindle with me and it had some fantasy on it, and that was not it. That was not the vibe. This book was exactly what I wanted in the moment. It made me sad, but it was a different kind of sadness, like, you know, mixed with joy from the realization that life is beautiful and ugly at the same time. No one is perfect, and how important it is to listen to people around you, and how precious it is to have people around you. So it made me really reflect on family themes, even like a little bit found family trope, because we do have some characters who are friends, who are very good in supporting friends in this book. So my microphone just stopped working at some point in that video, making it completely useless. And now I have to re-record the end of that video, hence a new outfit, new room, like new everything. Let's just keep going. I found the writing in this book to be quite engaging and I enjoyed learning new vocabulary from it. Overall, I think this is a great book for someone who wants to read in their second or third language. I chose to read it in French. You don't have to. You can read it in the original. That's probably even better. You will learn a lot of useful vocabulary. So the story is set in the real world, so there is a lot of modern vocabulary that you can just use daily. The story is set in Chicago and New York. I love the vibes of the city, so I enjoyed that too about this book. And the story starts sometime in the 80s, I think, and it spans over multiple decades. It ends in 2000s, I don't know, 2008 or something. So there is really a lot of contemporary vocabulary in there. There weren't many idioms or jargon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly this word. I mean, like specialized words. Most of the vocabulary was quite easy to deduce from the context when I didn't know the exact translation, and when I had to use ChatGPT or translator, that was fun to learn something new. So if you're advanced, if your level is advanced, that's going to be a great read. Probably somewhat straightforward and easy, but also if you're an intermediate in English or French and you want to use this book, you know, to improve your reading skills, also that's going to be great. Maybe you'll have to use a translator a little bit more here and there, a dictionary, but you're going to be fine. This book is slow enough to be able to deduce words from context, but not that slow to be boring, at least to me. I gave this book 4.5 stars. We'll see if I change my mind. Follow me on Instagram for quicker book updates and let me know in the comments what's your favorite book so far. Or if you read this book, hello beautiful, let me know your thoughts and your rating. Follow my channel here on YouTube for more book related content, but not only, we also talk about languages, tech, self-improvement and travel on this channel and just life. So make sure to subscribe and like this video if you liked it, and I'll catch you in my next one.